Hello, anybody who's watching my live. I made a promise that we would do this every night, so here I am. This video, of course, is being recorded, so it's going to be on YouTube and Facebook and all the I think Instagram and about 30 different social media channels. So I'm doing this live to explain. To kind of say why I'm launching a daily live program, and usually we would have a guest. Rarely you would see me doing it alone. Most times we would have a guest. Like last night we had Susie Damaski, who was an amazing guest. But I want to have a conversation in this video, which is now live, but which will be recorded and stored on YouTube and Facebook and other places on the internet, including our website. Future Stars website. So why do a live stream show every day? Why did we set up? So when COVID happened, we had to rethink the entire business. I mean, the whole world. COVID, I don't think we realize yet how much COVID has really disrupted humanity. The whole world, every aspect of human society has been disrupted by COVID, from healthcare to entertainment. I mean, musicians and all those people who used to sing and perform, from big stars to small town entertainers, comedians, they all were affected. So we saw culture, we saw the economic situation with businesses everywhere affected. We saw healthcare, tremendous impact on healthcare. So we saw wide-ranging societal impact of COVID. COVID affected every single thing. And of course it affected business. More than anything, it affected businesses. Restaurants, every area of business. People had to stay home from their office and work from home. So COVID really affected everything, and it affected our business, right? So we have a media business here. Well, we have four businesses in one. One is a startup technology, which is called Sims Book. It's actually, and what I'm talking about here is why we are launching the live stream and how you would benefit from it. So those of you viewing me right now, those of you watching the video when it's recorded and stored on YouTube or Facebook or our website or somewhere, if you ever want to go back to this video, it says for the next hour or something we would be discussing, well, I'll be talking about why I'm doing this thing, right? Why I'm launching a live stream show. And the reason is very obvious, of course, because of COVID. The entire global village has changed. Things have completely transformed. Now we might not realize it, and a lot of people keep saying, oh, things will go back to normal, one day we'll be as it was before. I don't think that's gonna happen. So our business was affected in a significant way, and we published a magazine which was printed, Millionaire Mindset. The logo is on the screen there. And suddenly we called the printer one day and they were closed because COVID came, and they said, all the government said all businesses should close and nobody should go to work. So suddenly we couldn't print our magazine. And that was a wake-up call. That was a real rethink. And we thought the best way to do this is, of course, digital. And we have been reorganizing the entire company since then to go digital. And one thing we did was we decided to push, because we had a little studio doing YouTube videos and stuff like that. And we would rent out the space to people doing photography and videos. So we decided none of that is going to work. Nobody's going to come to our studio anymore. So we got this big stage, a huge massive stage with a green screen and bought cameras and equipment and software and a whole bunch of stuff, and we set up for this thing. Next thing you know, there's a big new lockdown. And when the lockdown, I think was the third or the fourth lockdown came, we had to shut the big studio. So we got a smaller studio, which is where we are right now. But the reason I'm saying all that is that we had to completely reorganize. Business is about evolution. Business is about not being locked into a rigid structure, which it used to be. The whole industrial age was about structure. You clock in at a certain time, you clock out at a certain time, and everybody followed rules and systems, and and routine, that model is out of the window. Now we no longer have a world where we are structured. People work from home. People clock in. Of course, they got to clock into their computer, and the boss knows when you clock into your computer. But you're home in your pajamas, right? It's a different world, and so because it's a different world, we have to reorganize our business. Everything changed. Entertainment changed, culture, healthcare, business, every single thing changed, and obviously our business had to change. So the change that we did was this. We went digital. We went completely digital. We transformed the magazine, which is in the process of being developed online, into a full digital publication. And online, of course, a magazine is not a magazine as in print. It has way more functionality, way more features, and all those will be rolled out when we release the digital version of the Millionaire Mindset magazine, which is in the works. The second thing we had to do was we launched this live stream show. And as a journalist, as a media person, I thought, what can we do with a live stream show? Should we just put musicians on the show and comedians and people, just give them studio space and let them build an audience online? And we do this membership model, and that's a way to do business. Not a bad idea, but the journalist in me is kind of, thinking we could do more. And so we're doing more. We're launching a daily live stream show with the goal of we want to be speaking, we want to go global. We want people everywhere, in every country on the face of this earth, to connect with us and benefit from us and engage with us. We want to give to you what we have, the value that we can pour into you and you can pour into us. Let's have a partnership, let's have a conversation. But I'm very conscious that we would not be talking to everybody. Not everybody would resonate with what we're saying. Our audience would be a special kind of people, a kind of people who are, okay, we'll discuss that. What kind of audience are we talking to? Who are you? So from looking at this video, if you're here, that you would watch us or you wouldn't watch us. You would engage with us on a daily basis. On a daily basis, we're still organizing the time frame, what time we come, most likely in the evening, because that's when people are, having dinner and relaxing. So, we might get a better audience in the night, but we could do it earlier in the day as well, some days. So the time would fluctuate. There's no set time. As I said, we live in a different world, and it's more fluid, it's more dynamic, it's more playful, and that's what we will be doing here. So the live stream on a daily basis has a purpose, and I'll discuss the purpose. I want to say that we are launching this live stream on a daily basis. We have been doing it over the past year, the live stream, but sporadically. We do it now and then, and every 2 weeks, and once a month, and then a couple months would pass, and then we had to shed guests because they had to come in studio and that wasn't allowed, and all those things. Now we're setting up the live stream where we can run the live stream without guests. Like, I could be the host, or we'll have a co-host. We have a number of people that we're talking to who can fill in if I'm not here, or they can co-host with me, or they can do their own show. So we'll have different shows. Eventually we want to take this show as a 24/7 show. It deals with news, it deals with self-development, and it deals with inspirational stuff. And the whole goal of this exercise is self-development. So the people we want to connect with us, the people we want to become a part of this global movement, is what we're aiming to do. We want the kind of people who know in their heart, I want self-development. I want to not just be surviving, not just to sustain a life of survival, but really and truly to rise into a place of maximizing personal potential. Self-development is what we're aiming at. So I'm making a simple promise to all viewers, all the people who would connect with us, which is this. What I do every day, my lifestyle, is to wake up and have a cup of coffee. I can't do without my coffee. and I read deep literature. I read Dostoevsky and Tolstoy, and of course nonfiction as well, or Northrop Frye and Marshall McLuhan and Eric Fromm. Really deep works, right? Because I've been reading since I'm like my teen or something, and constantly. That's what my life is as a writer. I read, and so because I read these deep books, like Marcel Proust, all these James Joyce, fantastic writers, but deep thinkers. And I pour that into me every morning. Every morning I spend about 2 hours reading these books, and my library at home is like 600 books. In the office here, we have another maybe 50 or 60 books. And Malcolm Gladwell, and you name the standout thinkers of the ages and generations, but also especially our generation. I've been reading their books. And so because I need to learn so much about life, about human beings, and I take in as much as I can of knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. That's my goal. My goal is to absorb. That's my pleasure. That's what I enjoy doing. I enjoy finding as much knowledge, wisdom, and understanding as I can absorb and pour into my heart and my soul. And it's bliss for me. It's really an enjoyable life. I love reading and absorbing. Even movies. Every night I watch a movie or a documentary, and the reason is the same. Not entertainment, although that's part of it. More of it is absorbing the human condition. Okay, like Doug Engelbart said in his paper, which actually kickstarted the computer revolution, augmenting human intellect. So I try to augment my intellect, my human intellect, with books and the technology of reading and all those things. And so the reason I'm saying all this is not to say what I do. I mean, you don't care. I'm sure you're bored with my life. I'm bored with my life. But anyway, because I accumulate all this information, it becomes like data, right? It's stored in there, and so I let it out. And the way I let it out is I write. So I generally write about 3,000 words a day. It takes me about 2.5 hours. Just write, no editing, just write and store it there. And so over a year or so, it would accumulate to like 1 million words. 3,000 words a day times 300 days. You have 1 million words a year. And a lot of it, when I go back to read it, I'm not putting them in books and stuff, but when I go back to read them, I realize there are a lot of golden stuff in there, like knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. There's a lot of understanding of new things in life. And even if it's not new, there's nothing new under the sun that I came up with or that I read in a book or something. What I want to do, what my promise I'm making to you is this. I'm going to do the hard work. I know today we live in a generation where people don't generally read. The ones who read are I love them. I love people who read, who love books, who love libraries and bookstores and stuff. But a lot of people don't have the time or the energy or the motivation to do it, right? So I'm going to do that work. I promise you. I'm going to take on the work of finding which I've already found, the biggest and most cumbersome books you can think of, including, by the way, a book called Tragedy and Hope by Dr. Carroll Quigley. Dr. Carroll Quigley used to be Bill Clinton's professor in university, and he's the one who wrote Tragedy and Hope is the Bible of conspiracy theories. Although what he wrote was history, it was truth, but people like Alex Jones and all the conspiracy guys, they took their stuff from his book. My point is, even that book I'm going through, there is a book by a guy named Watchman Nee called The Spiritual Man that I've really delved into and learned a lot about his spiritual life as a Bible college guy myself. So all those things, and then design thinking from Edward de Bono, and all these things I have as treasure. I have a bunch of notes on my desk. If you look behind me at the computers, you would see a whole well, maybe you can't see, but there's a whole bunch of notes. I have thousands of pages of handwritten notes that I've made over the years and continue to make. And so what I want to do is, I'm going to do the hard work. I'm going to read, I'm going to watch the movies, I'm going to watch the documentaries, I'm going to absorb as much wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, but on one area, and we'll talk about that, one specialized niche, not just generally. I don't, for example, want to learn about figure skating, right? Or even physics and all those things. I have a working knowledge of physics, but I'm not an expert, or mathematics. What I'm talking about is one area, and we'll get into that, what that area is. So I'll absorb all this knowledge and wisdom and understanding, form it, and then what I want to do is this. What my promise to you is this. On this daily live show, we're interviewing people, we're going to be telling their stories, but also I'll be sharing and engaging with people of like mind, people who can connect with the kind of thing we're talking about, to share this kind of wisdom with people. So I'm going to do the hard work, and I'm going to bring those nuggets of wisdom, like proverbs in the Bible, right? Like how Solomon wrote, he absorbed the knowledge around him at that time and wrote the proverbs. Well, I'm going to have those wisdom sayings, if you will, but not wisdom sayings. It's a conversation. What we're doing with this live here is we're starting a conversation from us, from this movement that we're having under the guise of a company called Qualped, which is a vision in itself. It means quality of life personal designer. So we're developing tools, technologies, and tips, teachings, how people can design their quality of life. And so what the kind of knowledge, the kind of wisdom, the kind of understanding that we're sharing on this platform, which we're engaging with the people who connect with us, who engage with us, who resonate with us, people who dance to the same tune that we dance to, right? People who, not everybody's going to come and love us and say, oh, what an amazing project this is. But the ones who do, and even if it's a few, our goal is, touch the heart of the world, touch the mind of the world. We wanted to reach millions of people with our books and stuff. But this live stream through social media and the online platforms that we have, we want to reach as many people as we can who resonate with us. So a certain type of people, a certain type of soul that we can connect with. And the whole idea is that we absolutely believe, and this is what we're committed to, that we can generate around the world, starting locally, but with the internet, this live streaming, if we market it properly, it's going to Australia, India, Pakistan, Africa, Caribbean, America, Canada, everywhere. Obviously now nobody's watching it around the world, but with proper marketing, which we will be doing, it will become global. And so my point is, everybody around the world can engage in this conversation that we have. We want a global conversation in this new era that is coming up, post-COVID, in an era of climate change, where climate change is deciding every single thing in society, from laws of government to laws of cities to how the individual lives. Climate change is impacting every single thing. And so we want to engage in this conversation in this new world, in this world of Sustainable Development Goals, where the UN and the Elders Organization are working to implement 19 very futuristic, very humane, very compassionate, sustainable goals, which are aimed at increasing the quality of life of the individual human being on the planet, right? We want to support those things. So that world we're moving into, and they're planning by 2025 these 19 goals would be implemented globally in every country. This is what COVID is about. They're changing the times and the seasons and the laws. They're changing legislation to allow these new goals to come into place, including, for example, universal basic income. Right now, no government can implement universal basic income because simply their constitutions and their laws are against such a thing. And it's such a humane, compassionate thing. Despite what you think of UBI, it's an amazing thing that would help a lot of people get out of poverty. It's going to solve a lot of, provide a solution for a lot of crime and stuff like that in the inner neighborhood cities and all that. And then we have clean climate agenda, which is the future coming very soon, where they would phase out. We would see a phasing out of gasoline vehicles, for example, and autonomous vehicle coming into play, right? Self-driving cars and electric cars and all those things. That future is set. It's on its way. Within maybe less than 10 years, we'll be there. Fully, globally. That's the future we have. That is approaching us very, very fast. And so climate change agenda is changing society. And COVID is setting that up very nicely. Nicely might not be the right word. And then the Sustainable Development Goals. Those are going to make a huge difference in society. And then we have the Great Reset, which was an initiative started by Prince Charles from England, of course. Initiated this whole Great Reset of society. So life is more humane, equitable. Everybody in the world has equal opportunities. Everybody has free Wi-Fi and all those things. And on top of all that, we have technological revolution continuing to exponentially develop, so that Internet of Things and augmented reality And virtual reality with glasses, for example, the Apple glasses are coming out possibly by year end or next year sometime. And the Google glasses, Microsoft is also working on augmented reality and virtual reality. So we have a future that we're living into, and if we don't prepare for it, if we don't study what is going on, we'll be caught, left behind. We become the powers that be, the managers of the global system, and there are such people. Their intention is good, right? People say Bill Gates wants to reduce population and all this kind of thing. No. I don't buy those things. What I do believe is they have good intention, but human nature being what it is, I don't think they would always get good results. Some of it would turn out to be bad, like we see even with the smartphones and technology and the internet. The internet is supposed to be a good thing, but a lot of bad things happen on it. The dark web, the deep web, and all that. But society is changing. We're moving in that direction in the future, and we are setting out our company, Qualped Life Corporation. My vision, my goal as founder of the company, my shareholders. I have about 11 or 12 shareholders, and we, as a team, we set out to make a difference in the world. We really, really want to make a difference in the world. We are not here to glorify ourselves. We're not here to say, oh, I live in Canada or the United States or some rich country, and we're going to enjoy life and just exist. Those days are over. It's a new era. It's a new world. At my age, I'm old. At my age, I want to be able to look into the eye of the future generation, like my son who's 14 years old, my daughter. I want to look into the eyes of my generations to come, and the young people, the people we're bringing into a world. We didn't create the world, maybe our parents did after World War II and all that. The current global system, they built it. We inherited it, but we're responsible, and I feel responsible. And I want people, if you feel responsible for the state of the world, and you don't feel, oh, I'm too small, I can't do anything, look at me, one individual, one man can make a difference. Look at Obama. Look at Mandela. Look at any great human being who achieved amazing results for humanity. They changed human society against the tide of the masses and political movements and powers and armies. The girl who stood up in front of that, who's now Canadian, tank in China and defied the communist military regime. These people are one human being who changed society. Helen Keller, who completely changed how we see communications and language and words. Tremendous impact on humanity, one individual. Think of Nobel Peace Prize winners, Nobel Physics winners, literature winners, people one author who writes a book and it transforms the world. This is our philosophy. One individual human being makes a difference, not the masses of society. You can put 1 million people to march on the street, like they had 1 million man march, 1 million woman march, the Black Lives Matter march. It accomplishes basically nothing. But have one man, an MLK, Martin Luther King, or Michael Jackson even in culture. These people, one person changes society. And we can go on and on and on with the examples. Authors like Tolstoy, the impact of Tolstoy, or philosophers like people like Kierkegaard and all those guys, they impacted the whole human race. My point is, one individual can make a difference, and that's why we're here. We want to start a conversation with you as an individual, as a person. If you're the type of person who says, I want to self-develop, I want to design my life, I believe that I can rise to a new possibility and give to the world, offer to humanity something that is in me. And if that is you, if you believe, if you really crave that, if you're hungry for self-development and hungry to contribute to society, we want you here. So what we have is a program where we engage with people. It's training is involved, but it's more engagement and relations, right? We relate, in the relating is where it happens, where we want to develop, train, cultivate, and make successful authors of the future. So here is the thing. I believe that we can design the future. Now, I know in COVID everybody is saying, oh, government is doing this to us in the healthcare system, and who, World Health Organization, the UN, and all those things. But we really and truly are designers of our lives. Like Edward de Bono says in his work, Design Thinking. We can design our life. We can invent our future. We can create our future. And these things I'm going to delve into, like in details. Now, this is just a broad brush of what this life is all about. And as I said when we started, it's going to be a video that we have always on YouTube, always on Facebook, hopefully, if Facebook doesn't see what they're going through with the US government right now. But the video would always be available, even on our website, right? So it would always be there, and this is the reason why we're launching this live stream show on a daily basis and committing to that. We might fail, but we're committed to make it happen. I'm coming from a whole range of background, from journalism to Bible college and evangelist and all those things, life coaching, a writer, author, a whole bunch of stuff, and I'm bringing all of it on the table. My full human capital is I'm making it available on the show. Being as vulnerable as I can be, as open as I can be, and as giving as I can be. Now, I'm not always going to please everybody. I have my enemies, but they keep me on my toes, and I'm looking for the few people. Well, I don't know if it's few. I hope it's more. I hope it's many. But I'm looking for the few people who resonate with this kind of mentality, this mindset. What is it? Is a mindset. First, it's an abundance mindset. Second, it's a mindset of, I'm not going to settle for anything. I'm going to scale and do something big, great with my life. I believe I can do that. And then the mindset of, I'm not living for me. I'm passing away. This body is going to go one day. My soul is going to live eternally, hopefully. But the time that I have on earth is to accumulate what I can, take in what I can, like a seed in the fertile ground, and then bear fruit that is worthwhile, that you can have and you can benefit from. And it helps to nourish you, your soul, your mind, your heart. That's what we're about. We want to nourish you through this live stream show. I want to eventually develop a team here that would make this into a real global thing with studios in different countries, and also, but more importantly, that we have an audience. Even if you have one person in each country on the face of the earth who can take these ideas and make something of it, open a pulpit studio and teach people, train people, that they can go out into society and say to society that you can create your life, you can create the life you want, you can design the life you want, and having created and designed the life you want, you can live the quality of life that you want. Because life is not about, life is quality of life. It's not a quantity of stuff. Through the industrial age, everybody was saying, I want more stuff, fill up my house with more TV, more, newer furniture, 2 cars in the garage, and all those things. And we fill our lives with stuff, external stuff. No longer that is going through the window. That is not operating anymore. What we're talking about now is quality, not quantity. Quality of life. We want people to have quality of life. Whatever your age, whatever your ethnicity, whatever your background, whatever your economic status, quality of life is what we aim for. People say aim for success. Well, what is success? We're saying success is your quality of life. If you have a good quality of life, then you have success. You could be poor, you could be living on the street, but of course you can't live on the street and have a good quality of life. But you get my point. Like as a writer, I would live on the street. Why not? And write from the experience of it, right? It's material. And that will be quality of life. So my point is, whatever your situation is, quality of life is the thing that we aim for. And there is something important in what we're doing. And that is this. The only tool that human beings have, the only tool that you and I have, the only tool that mankind has had from the beginning of history until today, what is it? What is it that stayed with human beings throughout all history, all the ages, all the generations, from time immemorial to now? What is the one thing? Civilizations come and go, empires came and go, great leaders came and went. What stayed with man? The ability to speak. Words, language. We've always had words and language. The only thing that develops a civilization, and I'm going to argue this as we go, and maybe not argue is the word, but I'm going to lay out this belief in a really rational way as this live streaming show develops over the next few months. But what we're banking on is that what the world needs is a certain type of conversation. What human beings need is a certain type of conversation. Whether you're going through a hard time in life, you're poor, or you're disabled, or your ethnicity is a disadvantage in a certain society, whatever it is, all of it could be fixed with one conversation, with the right person, with the right words. And so what we have at our fingertips that can make a difference for our lives, that can improve our quality of life, the tool that we have is conversation. Let's have that conversation. Let's have the tough conversation. Let's have the loving conversation. Let's have the engaging conversation. Let us look each other in the eye and say, let's talk about it. Let's talk about life. Let's talk about the future. Let's talk about, here's what we talk about in this show. What it means to be a human being. What does it mean for me to be a human being? What does it mean for you to be a human being? Is it for you to get up every day and go slug it out in a job and come home and tired, drop on the sofa, watch TV, eat food from the fridge or order food from a restaurant, and then start the whole process over again, 2 hours in traffic every day? That's the industrial age. That's the height of the industrial age, when people moved from their home to factories, factory to home, home to factory, like rats in a rat race, right? That's what we did. Is that what it means to be a human being? We're going to explore what it means to be a human being. And the only thing the human being has is our story. The things that happen to us, we define those things with words, with language, with some kind of meaning. We put narrative, we put drama to what happened. As a kid, if I fell and bruised my knee, I grew up with a fear of doing certain things because I might fall and bruise my knee. So we attach fear to what happened. To use an example, a silly example. And there are many examples. Everything in life we give meaning to, and that meaning is in language. All life is our words. And so we're taking words and we're coming to you, and we want you to take words and come to us, and we have this conversation. Let's have a conversation across the internet, on this live stream, about what it means to be a human being and what is possible for us in the future. We use our imagination, we imagine what is possible, okay? We believe that we can achieve that which is possible, and then we go out and we make it happen. In that way, we design and we create and we invent the future that we desire. This is the conversation we want to have in many forms, with guests who we would interview and tell their story, and in lives like this where we would just have a talk, a monologue, if you will, because that's what this is, a monologue. I wanted to put some background music and make it a little bit nice maybe next time, but you get my point. You get what I'm talking about. If you see this video and you happen to listen to this thing, and make a comment on Facebook, make a comment on YouTube or Instagram or someplace, or send me an email, whatever it is. If you know my email, I should put it up on the screen. But our website is there, cooperative.com. You can contact me through that as well. But so we're launching a live streaming show with the goal of investigating, exploring what it means to be a human being, this huge philosophical quest, through the simple exercise of telling stories, and all we're using is words and conversation. This is a conversation we're starting, right? Now, the way we do this is, I'm going to read every day, I'm going to watch movies, documentaries, whatever, go through life experiences, pick up things, make notes. That's all I'll do. And then I'll come here and share what I think is intelligence, what John Tesh calls intelligence for life, though I don't agree with that, and that kind of phraseology and that kind of reducing cultural tidbits to intelligence. We're going to deal with deeper stuff. For example, one of the books that I really enjoyed and I've read over and over again is this book. This book is The 3 Laws of Performance by let me see if I could get it closer. Yep, 3 Laws of Performance by Steve Zaffron and Dave Logan. They were actually they're coaches at Landmark Education, where I did a life coaching program, and they wrote this book called 3 Laws of Performance. And so, for example, this is what I'm talking about that we'll do a lot on this show. I would read a book and come here and say, here is what I got out of the book. Here is the life wisdom, and I'll share it with you. For example, let's go through a quick examination of this book. Steve Zaffron and Dave Logan talked about 3 very, very fundamental human things, which is 1, get this, if you're listening to this live, I would like you to pay attention to this for a few minutes. 1 is, everything in life happens to us, and what we see is not what happens to us, but how what happens to us occurs to us. You get that? Our perception of things. So I would slam my finger on the door, for example, and I turn that into a story and say, oh, I'm unlucky or I'm having a bad day, right? Nothing happened. All I did was the door accidentally hit my finger. But instead of saying the door hit my finger, I say, oh, I'm in my mind, I'm self-talking, right? I may even tell people in social conversation, because that's what conversation is. There is a self-talk, which we call thinking, and it's not thinking. It's self-talk, and we talk to ourselves like crazy people. Constantly humans do this, right? We always, that's why people can't sleep at night sometimes. The brain is busy talking to themselves. And then we go into a social conversation where we talk to each other. And then there's a third conversation that we have, which is with God, with the universe, with the cosmic forces. And so we have self-talk, social talk, cosmic talk. And we interpret this, I hit my finger on the door, to self, oh, I'm unlucky, look what happened to me. We go social talk, you know what happened to me today? I hit my finger on the door, man, I'm having such a bad day, I don't know what to do. And most times that your social circle will reinforce that story, that meaning that you put on that event. And then we go pray and say, oh Lord, I'm so unlucky, bless me, or universe, what is going on with me? My point is, we use words, conversation, with self, with social, and with, the universe, and we form our own story. We give meaning to every single thing, and it all happens in words. So what the book is saying, 3 Laws of Performance, is that it's not what happens to us, it's what happens to us occurs to us. It occurs to us in a certain way. And how it occurs to us has a lot to do with our childhood, with our history, with the people we deal with the society we live in, with the culture we live by. We learn to interpret certain things a certain way. Like, for example, superstitions and religious stuff and psychic things and all that. Certain societies, they hold that in very high esteem. That kind of thing, because that's culture. Culture influences us, right? So it's not what happens to us. It's how we see what happens to us. How what happens to us occurs to us. That's an important one of the 3 laws. That's one of the laws. The second law that these guys talk about, and we'll get more into these things with more concrete examples as we go with the live stream day by day. The second thing that these guys, so the first is, remember, what happens to us, we don't see it that way. We see it, we put a meaning on it, we put a story on it, and we say, this is how it occurs to me. Right? The second thing we need to realize is that the only tool or the only vehicle that this thing occurs to us in, the occurrence of something, can only happen in language. Like, I hit my finger on the door. There's no physical evidence to show that I have a bad day. or I'm unlucky, or that, I'm clumsy, or whatever story I want to come up with. There's no physical manifestation or evidence or object to say this is what happened to me. We can only express how things occur to us in words and language, which is what Helen Keller found out. A beautiful woman. If you can read her books, definitely go through it. So we are human beings where life occurs to us instead of happen to us. We always interpret everything according to our previous experiences. And the second thing is the occurrence only happens in language. Now, this is a problem, of course, because we live caught up in words, and we live caught up in stories, and we live caught up in what we call meaning making. We make meaning out of everything, right? You're walking on the street and somebody says, look at that ugly guy, and it means everything to you, and you walk around for 20 years thinking, I'm ugly, right? I'm using a weird example. So life occurs to us in language, and that's the only reality we know. And that's why we're doing this is a conversation, because only in language could life occur to us. And we want life to occur to you as it occurs to us, which is, I can design my life. I can create the future. I can design the kind of quality of life that makes all the difference in my day, in how I contribute to my society, in what I leave for the legacy of humanity. That's my thing. I'm master of my domain. I'm not saying I'm an atheist. I'm not. I do believe in God. But God has given us dominion over these things. So let's go back quickly to what these guys are saying. One, life doesn't happen to us, it occurs to us. We cause it to happen. We make meaning out of what happens. Second, we make meaning only in language. We don't make meaning with anything else. There's no other ingredient. There's no other material. It's only words, it's only language. And that's why when you study literature and you get into the deep works of what I call the canon of mankind, it really opens up your mind to words and language and thinking, and you see life differently. You become more of a critical thinker in terms of literary terms, not criticism. And the third, so if life occurs to us and it only occurs to us in language, right? How can we fix that? So that's a problem, but in the problem is the solution. The way we can fix it is we can change the language that we use. Let's go back to our example. If we say I hit my finger on the door and therefore I'm unlucky, or it's a bad day, or I'm, somebody is out to get me, or whatever it is, instead of our language going in that direction, our language could create a different future. We could use different words in our mind, self-talk, our social talk, and our cosmic talk. So we could say, for example, to use this very silly example, because life is deeper than you hitting your finger on the door, or me hitting my finger on the door, why not say, maybe the door is not positioned properly, or maybe I wasn't being present. I wasn't being intentional in what I'm doing, my mind is drifting, and therefore I'm going to be more present. And in the future when I go out, I'll be more present, right? And so you're writing a new future for yourself in how you react to moments. Walking through a door and you're present about the door and your finger and everything. I'm painting a broad picture. And then you go out into social talk, and that same attitude comes with you, and you say to your friends, or the people you're walking out, I just hit my finger on the door because I wasn't present. I wasn't thinking. I was just zoned out. It gives it a different conversation. You see what I mean? And then of course you go talk to the university and you say, oh, I'm okay, I'm fine. It's just a little accident, but I'm going to make sure that doesn't happen again. And so in conversation, in words and in language, we can design the future that we want, that we desire. Very simple. Life is very, very simple. What we're doing here is not complex at all. It's not complicated at all. It's very simple stuff. But it calls for some serious work. Not necessarily hard work, but smart work. Work of absorbing. You see, here's something. We live in a golden age. We do live in a golden age. Despite what COVID is devastating the world with, despite what people are saying about the future and how we're being controlled and vaccinated and passport and all those things. We really and truly live in a very, very golden age. Think of it. At no time in human history, was mankind the way we are today. The clothing that we can have, the technology that we have, the economic prosperity in the 10 years between 2010 and 2020, the world pulled over 1 billion people out of gross poverty. I remember in the 80s, China, India, Africa, you used to see poverty in children where there were skin and bones, literally. It was heartbreaking. You see, everywhere people go, and you used to have charities going all over the world, from America and Canada and Europe, going to these countries trying to feed. Millions and millions were in devastating hunger, death, dying. Now that is gone. We improved quality of life tremendously over the past decade. We live in a golden age when you think of the technology that we have. I mean, think of it. Our grandparents, even my parents, for example, couldn't go around with something like this where they hold a whole computer in their pocket and could browse the web and could watch this live stream anywhere in the world. We didn't have that, but we take it so much for granted. Now, a home in Toronto, where I'm in Ontario right now, a home in Toronto is $1 million. Right? So we live in a golden age, but we don't recognize it. We don't live it. We live too small, and we want to change that, at least for some people. The people who would listen to us, the people who would engage with us, the people who would come alongside us and say, you know what? We can't settle for a small life. We can't settle for a small life. We can't. It's not fair to the next generation. We got to take responsibility. The politicians of cities and provinces and countries, journalists, writers, business people, we got, people of the church, people of religion. We have to take responsibility. Let me touch on one more thing before we finish today's live. The industrial age is coming to an end. That's what's going on with COVID. We had 100 years of the industrial age, which started around, say, 1898 or something, the year 1895, 1890 is around there. And it ran till about 10 years ago, the industrial age. Actually, the ending of it is still going on, the fading out of it. But in that 100 years, so before the industrial age, there was feudalism, where kings and queens owned all the land, and they would rent out land to peasants, and the peasants had to do farming and sell their produce and their livestock in the market, and live a very destitute life, right? Because they owe everything to the aristocrats, the lords, and the lords lived like, well, they were kings, they lived like kings. That's where the phrase came from. And the majority of the world was poor and illiterate. They couldn't read, they couldn't write, and all those things. Even the Bible, people couldn't read the Bible till, maybe 100 years ago or less. The white masses. Then the industrial age started after Adam Smith wrote his book, Wealth of Nations, in 1776. Same time the US released their Declaration of Independence and broke away from the British monarchy and stuff like that. And so we had the feudal age came to an end, and before the feudal age, of course, was the agricultural age and all that. We can go back. But my point is, the industrial age started, and then Henry Ford, who invented the car and assembly line and all those things, really fueled the industrial age. And for 100 years we've run with that. What defined the industrial age was in all these ages, how the individual lives, the human life, the human being, what am I trying to say? What it means to be a human being. What it means to be a human being is defined by these contexts, the age that we live in. So the feudal age, the individual, what it meant to be a human being, you either are aristocratic and own, vast tracts of land, or you're a peasant who rented land and lived in destitution. In the industrial age, people moved away from farms and feudalism, and they could own land and with a house on it, with a small lot, 50 by 40, it's defined, and they go to factories. So they move from farms to factories, and they were working in factories for 100 years. The world had factories going with machines humming, pouring CO2 and pollution into the atmosphere. So now we're seeing a change of that. We're seeing that industrialization has come to a point where corporations have become greedy and like bloodsuckers, like parasites in society, as this documentary maker, what's his name? I forget his name. Said in his documentary called The Corporation, that it's a psychotic, crazy person. That's what the modern corporation is, the global corporation, including Facebook and all those places. So industrialization came to a place where it just outgrew itself. It became a monster, which is what it is now. So we have 3,000 billionaires in the world today, and the rest of humanity, 7.5, close to 8 billion people, are paying bills, right? All that is coming to an end. All that is changing. Believe it or not, all that is changing, and that's what we want to deal with on the show. We want to deal with all that on the show. During the industrial age, what is coming now, the industrial age is coming to an end, and what is starting up is the knowledge age, which is why we are so excited, because in the knowledge age, the individual becomes enormously empowered. The individual will be so empowered in the knowledge age, which is on our doorstep, which is within 5 years we'll be there, with technology and individual empowerment. We will become so powerful as individuals, guess what? The powers that be would have to keep us in a close net under surveillance, which is already starting to happen. That's why surveillance society is happening. The reason surveillance society is happening is because the individual is increasing in power. Get it? They need to control us. They, whoever they are. Excuse me. So, one thing that defined the the industrial age that is now coming to an end, so for the past 100 years, especially after World War II, what defined that age was a philosophy. And that philosophy is existentialism. Existentialism, Kierkegaard and Barth and different philosophers came up with this body of psychological theories, really, not anything practical, but theories that said life is best enjoyed for the individual in experience. That if you experience life, that's the highest form of living. So, in other words, how you define the human being is in this way of saying, I'm going to have experiences. And if I can enjoy my experience, then, that's what it means to be a human being. And so we saw during the latter part after World War II and when the world settled down, we saw a huge push towards the most extreme of existentialism, which is pleasure. So we saw in the 60s you had the sexual revolution, then throughout the 70s, the 80s and stuff, you had all kinds of people who were just doing things to enjoy it. You go to the beach and enjoy it, you go to a party, you go to a musical concert, you listen to a song, you drink a glass of wine, whatever you do, all I want to do is enjoy the moment. I want to watch a movie and enjoy the moment. So what we saw in the industrial age, some of this might be heavy, but again, we're talking to a certain audience, right? People who resonate with us. And eventually we'll break all of this down so it's more digestible to all of us. But anyway, existentialism became just like materialism and just like consumerism, which it fed into those things. It became meaningless. So that's why in Western societies, Canada, America included, and Europe, the developed westernized societies, they were so stooped in existentialism that they became hedonistic and decadent. Debauchery was everywhere. There was a complete breakdown of social values. And the only thing that kept society moral and ethical were actually laws, the judicial system. The good conscience of man collapsed. There was one guy wrote a Christian book and called it the crisis of conscience. There was a crisis of conscience in America and Canada. It's going on today. And it fueled things like abortion and the homosexual. And I'm not making a judgment about these things. I'm just saying, right? I'm just commenting without saying one way or the other what my preferences are. But indeed, we had homosexuality and, now marijuana is, so illegal drugs and stuff are being legalized. Alcohol, of course, the biggest campaign issue in the last Ontario provincial election was alcohol. Do we sell alcohol in grocery stores or not? Right? So we became a society that lost all values. We became a society that said everything goes. And we can do whatever we want. And we call it freedom. Right? We said we're free. Are we free to destroy ourselves? Are we free to destroy our bodies? And so right now the world is dealing, my city in Oshawa and in America and the rest, many parts of Canada and Europe, with a global opioid crisis. There are people who wanted the high. They wanted the experience of pleasure. They want dopamine to push them. Even the social media sites, that's what they focus on. Let's increase people's happiness hormone. Let them experience the moment, and they are addicted to social media. And all these people who are walking around Toronto, homeless, on drug addiction, mentally insane, tremendous mental health problems all across the world. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said 1 in 5 Canadians is suffering from mental health problems. It comes from a society that went into decadent, debauched, demoralized, hedonistic social behavior. In the heyday of the 90s, before 9/11 happened, and the early 2000s, in Toronto the clubs would be full at night. People are partying, going home 3-4 o'clock in the morning, absolutely drunk. That's how people lived. And now when people say let's change society, COVID is here to change society, they're marching and protesting. They don't want that. Existentialism played a huge role in the industrial age, and it destroyed our soul. It made us zombies. And it's time for the conversation to change, right? It's time for us to prepare this world, a new path, a new way for the next generation, where they advance into the future. Not life occurring to them in terms of their own self-pleasure and their own self-indulgence, but life occurs to them, the general masses. The mass behavior that we're aiming for is that the individual goes after self-care, which some people do. I'm not saying these statements are not blanket statements generalizing everybody. I'm saying generally this is how society is, but you have exceptional human beings, right? Many. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the general state of human society today. And we want to move into a future where we're in the knowledge age, and what becomes our main asset, our main focus in life is what does it mean for me to be a human being? What is possible for me to create in the future? What is possible for me 5 years from now, 3 years from now, 2 years from now, 1 year from now, 10 years from now? What is possible for me and my generations to come? What is possible? Let's ask ourselves that question. Peter Drucker said, and I think what Socrates or Aristotle or one of them said, it's not the answers we come up with, it's the questions we ask. This show is about questions we are going to be asking. And maybe I'll put those on the screen every time I stream. And the questions are, what is possible for our future? What does it mean to be a human being? And how can we turn our story into our most valuable, worthwhile, and beneficial asset? We cannot continue living thinking our asset is a house or a piece of land or jewelry, a piece of gold or money in the bank. We have to start thinking of our asset as our human capital, our knowledge, our experience, our smarts, our skill set. When we go to talk to somebody about earning money to live, to pay bills, we want to be able to say, this is my human capital, this is what I'm putting on the table, my full smarts. And I don't want to wage for this because it's invaluable. How can you pay me for my human capital if I die and go to the grave with it? Was it T.D. Jakes or Miles Monroe, I think it was, who said that the richest people, the most talented people, where are they? In the cemetery. They died with their giftings, they died with their skills and their smarts, and they died with their stories. So here's what we are setting out to do. We want to have this conversation with you, and hopefully you're one who would engage with us. And in the conversation, our goal is massive, and we're crazy enough to believe that we can achieve this. In the knowledge age, we want to see a global movement where every human being asks themselves these questions. What is possible for me in the future out of my imagination? Given everything else, right? You don't say, I want to fly like an airplane. We don't have wings, right? So be reasonable out of what is so. What is possible for me in the future? What is possible? Make a list of it. Come dream, go big, and find some huge big dream to live for. What is possible for me as a human being? What does it mean? What is possible for me in the future? And then what does it mean that I'm a human being? What does it mean that, I went through all these things in life and I put meaning on everything? But what does it really mean? How can I use my story? How can I use my story to build multiple streams of income? To build an asset base that goes global and touches the heart and the soul and the mind and the life of as many people as possible. When we converse, when we have this conversation, we must touch people's heart. Our life must touch people's heart. Our story, when we tell our story, it must be so engaging, like Susie Tomasi was saying last night on the show here. What is possible for our future? Even as COVID is happening. Let's converse about that. What does it mean that I'm a human being? Let's explore that. How can I turn my story into multiple streams of income and into a platform where I have dignity? I have human dignity. I have the respect of the world, and I engage and touch the lives of human beings. How can I make my story like that? Those three questions we're focusing on this live. And we'll be dealing with politics, we'll be dealing with business, we'll be dealing with all kinds of stuff. And we'll be promoting our books and our technology. So the technology that we have, let me mention this quickly before I go. The technology that we have is called Sims Book, Simple Multimedia Smart Book. Now listen to this. Books are the most advanced form of knowledge on the face of the earth. Books are the most advanced form of knowledge on the face of the earth. And guess what? People engage more with videos and movies and text and pictures than with books. 7.5 billion people on the planet, and very few of them delve into books, especially deep literature. And the way I look at it from the works of this critic Harold Bloom in literature, he talked about the canon of the Western canon. Well, I expanded it. The whole of human literature, from going back from the days of the Greeks and the Romans to today's date, all the classic literature stuff that man has written, you put them all together, they form one whole. It's called what I call the canon of mankind. And in that canon is a wealth of wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. We pass it on from generation to generation to generation. That's what civilization is. It's encased in books. Knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. That's what civilization and everything is all about. The highest form of knowledge is in books. But technology has done nothing for books. In fact, the first technology that was invented was by Michael Hart in 1971. He invented e-books, electronic books, under a project called Gutenberg Project, after the guy who invented the printing press, Johannes Gutenberg. Michael Hart in 1971 invented the Gutenberg Project, and his goal was to take 50,000 books from libraries back in 1971 and get those books digitized and put them online as electronic books. He invented the term electronic books. That project was only completed last year. Google took over the project, failed, some other organization took it over. Now a bunch of good-hearted charity people are doing it instead of business. It's sad. It's sad that ebooks were invented in 1971 and we still have ebooks today. Nothing has been done with books. Nothing. In technology, in all those years of technology, we didn't develop books as a nice, sexy, enticing, beautiful object where children and adults and teens can absorb knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Delve into the canon of man and know the depths of intelligence. We haven't been able to do that. We want to change that, but make it very nice, not boring like my talk here, right? Not boring and tedious. It has to be fun. It has to be enjoyable. And so we've developed Sims Book, Simple Multimedia Smart Book. It's multimedia, it's very simple, and it's smart. To take books and make them into, platforms like Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, where it becomes a part of our life, and we absorb books and we stories and literature, and we delve into it. That becomes our lifestyle. I grew up living in the library. I love the library. My son, as a boy growing up, he would always be in a bookstore in the library. Always. It's an amazing life. It's most fulfilling. And I want that for every human being. And so we have Sims Book. We're going to be rolling that out. You're going to hear a lot about that. And also our reason for being, our vision, because you can't make money your vision. The reason we exist can't be for money. They used to be so in the industrial age. It doesn't work anymore. It's not a great motivator anymore. We got to be, like Peter Drucker said, aspire to something greater. Aspiration is where the human motivation comes from, that drives us to achieve our dreams. And our aspiration is that every human being on the face of this planet, every human being born on Earth in the 21st century, should be able to and capable of writing and publishing their book before they die. That's our goal. We're doing this live stream show to have a conversation with you, a special human being, called out from the crowd, not conforming to the existentialist, pleasure-seeking commoner who wants to live a shallow life, but wanting to really make a difference, doing something great and astonishing with your life. We want to make that difference. And so I hope you join us. I hope you join us every single day. It's not an easy task to do a live stream every day and to commit to it in terms of planning and scheduling and getting guests and setting up all the equipment and all those things. But nothing good in life is easy. And this is easy, and I'm not saying it's not easy, but it's going to be a bit of a road that we're traveling on. And I need company, I need friends, I need supporters, I need you to encourage and engage and be a part of the journey. Okay? Thank you very much for listening to me. I appreciate it, and I hope to see you again here tomorrow. Thank you. Take care.